I had an awesome experience today. I was driving across town with my wife, and we were actually in the neighborhood where our first house was. We were passing down one of the main streets that was just one street away from where we used to live. And as we were going up this street, I looked over and I saw a ruby red, or maybe a red candy, can't tell, 13 or 14 Shelby GT500 sitting in the garage, kind of tucked to one corner, and it was up on jack stands. And there were two gentlemen outside talking. One of them was in a motorized wheelchair, and one of them was standing next to the Shelby. And I said to my wife, "Oh, look, there's a GT500 in there. That's really cool to see that just out of nowhere. I didn't know that car was in town." And I said, "You know what, I'm going to drop you off and I'm going to go back and talk to them." And she said, "Sure." And she laughed and she's like, "I know you will." You know, she has like an hour-long class to go to, and usually I have my other kids with me and we'll go do something while she's at class. And so we dropped her off and we drove back there, and I was really excited and I was hoping that they were still outside. And we pulled up, and sure enough, they were both there. And I got out of the car, and sometimes you wonder when you walk up to somebody like that how they're going to accept you, whether they don't really care to talk to you or whether they're very nice, friendly people and they want to talk to you. And I even said that to the owner of this car later when we were talking about it, and he said, "No, most of the time if you're a car guy, then you're going to get along with any car guy and you'll be excited to talk to anyone who wants to come by and see your car." So I walked up to them and I was just smiling and I said, "Hey, I used to live just over here, one street away. As a matter of fact, if you look at this map, my house was the blue X, and this house where the Shelby is the red X. That's how close we were." And I started talking to him, and then I realized that the other gentleman in the motorized wheelchair was my next door neighbor from when I used to live in the neighborhood. And I said, "Oh, this is Harry. This is my old neighbor." And I asked Harry if he remembered me because now he's in a wheelchair and looking a little older. And he was really happy to see me. He said, "Yeah, I remember you. Always working on Mustangs." So this was my old house, and there are so many pictures of me working on my cars here. And it brought back a lot of good memories of when I was building up my Bullet. And I just thought it would be cool to show some of these pictures because I went through and I was looking back at how cool this was. This is where I got my orange Cobra. This is where I did some engine pulls. It's where I built up the Bullet, did all the cams and stuff. My friend's red Terminator, when he melted a piston, we pulled the engine out there. And my side yard, I had this pavement on the side of the house, and so I had done so much work here. Like I was telling him, I had pulled over 20 transmissions in that side yard. And it was just really cool to think back to all the times that I had worked on my cars in that neighborhood. So here's just a little throwback to supercharging the Bullet and my other black Bullet that I had that needed a clutch at the time. And this is where I brought my orange Cobra home. Always working in the side yard, dropping fuel tanks and doing fuel pumps. This is where I got my black Bullet and worked on it a lot there. I mean, doing things like adding short shifters and but all the way up to pulling engines out of cars. So definitely a cool neighborhood, always something going on, lots of Mustangs. I'm going to show you some more Mustangs here that were in the neighborhood as well, but I just took this little trip down memory lane because I was talking with him about all the projects I had done there just around the corner, just a couple of houses down. I was doing transmissions like this here. And as a matter of fact, where this green X is, I had another neighbor there who had a white with silver stripe Roush 427R, and that was really cool to see him all the time. And across the street where the yellow X is, my other neighbor had a '01 or '02 zinc yellow Mustang GT. And when I really start to think about how many Mustangs there were in the neighborhood, this top orange X there represents where my friend had a really nice 2000 white GT. This car was really nice, had a Roush front bumper, and it was one of those situations just like this where I saw it parked in the driveway and I just stopped and made a new friend. He was an older gentleman as well. He bought this GT because he just wanted to have a nice Mustang when he retired. But yeah, looking at this picture, you can't throw a rock in that old neighborhood without hitting a Mustang. To the left where that brown X is, there was an '04 silver V6, and to the right of that where the purple X was, there was a '96 silver GT, and then the blue X was my house, and then across the street from there, there was a '66 Mustang Coupe. At the very bottom where that light blue X is, there is a new blue GT350. So what a cool neighborhood to be in, and I had several Mustangs to add there as well. But anyway, back to the story. So I get to talking with this guy with his red GT500, and he said, yeah, come in and look at the car. And so as I got closer, I noticed that it was actually a convertible. So a little more rare than what you typically would see, but still really cool to see one of these in town. And as I got looking at the car, I noticed that it was on the jack stands and that he had everything ready to drop the transmission. And you can see here he has the shifter and everything all taken apart. And he was saying that he thinks that the car actually has a T56 Magnum XL and that the pilot bearing was making some noise or something, so he wanted to drop the transmission, go through it. And so I said, well, I bet it wouldn't be too hard. He said he's got everything all disconnected, but it had like a weird bell housing. He said, I'm not sure, I can't really wiggle it loose, and I don't really know how to get it down with the floor jack like this. And I got to talking, and I got on my knees and I looked underneath the car, and I said, yeah, you know, it should be able to wiggle loose, and you know, it's really a two-person job. And next thing I know, I took off my sweater and I crawled underneath the car, and we got to talking about working on cars. And I said, you know, I counted the other day with my friends, and I've actually pulled over 20 transmissions off of Mustangs with all my cars, my brother's cars, my friends' cars, and I did count it up, and it was over 20. So he said, wow, not only do you sound like you know what you're doing, but you sound like you're the man for the job. You're getting yourself into something right now, talking to me about all this. And I said, hey, if you'd like help, maybe I can help you pull this thing down real quick. And he said, that would be great. I can't really do it alone, and you know, it's just kind of an awkward thing to pull down, and I had surgery on my shoulder, so you know, it's kind of hard for me to get under here and do all this. And I said, yeah, let's try. So I crawled under the car and I started looking at it, and I thought about taking the two-piece bell housing apart, and because that's kind of an easier way to do it. But I noticed he already had all the bell housing bolts loose, and I thought, you know what, it'd be easiest if we just kind of pulled it down. I'll lay underneath. We'll just kind of drop it onto my chest like I usually do, and we'll kind of roll it off to the side. And so he crawled under there with me, and he got the drive shaft off, and we started pulling on it, and it was kind of connected, and a couple little shim pieces dropped down, little washer adapter pieces, and that made it a little easier. And I had a screwdriver to pry it loose from the block, and we popped it loose, and next thing you know, we had it down.
Could we lay it on the ground and skip the jack now?
Yeah, we'll just slide it out.
Paid for me to do it because I was his youngest manager anywhere.
And so we got along great. We had all sorts of Mustang stories to talk about with each other. He restored a '65 Fastback, and he's had over 20 Mustangs, and I told him I've had about 17 or 18, and it was just really fun to get to know him, and we got along great. Something really cool that I never expected as we were talking was he asked me about my cars, and I pulled up a picture of my competition orange Terminator just first off to show him the first picture of a Mustang that I had on my phone. And he looked at the car and he said, I've seen that car before. And I said, really? And he said, yeah, that was brand new at the Ford dealership up there in Salt Lake City, where he was from in northern Utah. And I told him, yeah, this car was sent brand new to northern Utah, and then it was dealer traded to Phoenix with 30 miles on it. And he said, yep, that's it. They only had one of those up there for sale. And a long time ago in 2004, when that car was brand new, it was sitting on the showroom floor in the Ford dealership. And he went in there considering buying a Mustang, and he saw it, and they even let him sit in it. So he said, they opened up that car and they let me sit in it, so I have sat in your Cobra. So I was really excited about that. I said, that's really cool to know that you've sat in my Cobra before. What a really cool coincidence. So anyway, we got looking at his car, and he said that he's pretty sure that this has a Magnum XL in it, and he wants to have it gone through. And um, I don't know if it really needs to be gone through, but he said he has a friend who's really into transmissions, so he's gonna look it over. And I think he said it did have a small grind trying to get it into reverse or something like that. But he's gonna have that done and put a new clutch in it. And when I was under there, I looked up and said, it looks like it has a red McLeod clutch in it. And sure enough, he texted me later and said, yep, that was definitely a McLeod clutch. And he's going to look into getting that all rebuilt or replaced or something like that. But he said, you definitely earned a ride in this car. No, you know what? You deserve to drive this car. So he's going to get it all put back together. I'll probably help him lift the transmission back up, and then he said, I'm going to let you drive this car. And as we talked about what my cars had done to him, he said, yeah, you definitely sound like you know how to handle a car like this, and we'll go for a good drive as soon as we get this put back together. So I thought this was a really cool story. I was really excited about it when I picked my wife back up from her college class. I was so excited to tell her I made another friend and had a lot of fun, and so that's just really cool, and I just want to share this with everybody as a really cool story. So thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this story, and stay tuned for more Mustang content.